Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to continue on that pore filling thing that we were talking about last time. And the first thing I want to point out to you is that this is a totally optional step. If you like to see open grain in your wood, then by all means leave the open grains in your guitar. Filling the pores is not going to make it sound any better. It just looks a little bit different. So if you want that slick black piano finish kind of thing going on your guitar, you have to pore fill. So let's get started. Let's start with a quick recap for the people that didn't watch the last video. First, we cleaned up the guitar, then we sanded it all the way up to 320 grit. After that, we used our dust and our glue trick to fill in any little gaps in the binding and in the rosette. I rounded over the corners on the guitar so we'd get better adhesion with the lacquer and have a softer feel to our hands. Then I applied the epoxy using a squeegee and a popsicle stick. The epoxy that I used is a crystal clear resin cast type epoxy. It's same as tabletop epoxy. It doesn't have any tint to it at all, no amber, no discoloration at all. It's perfectly clear. Then I let it sit and dry for 24 hours, and that brings us to a point where we have to make a decision. We can either sand the epoxy flat and then just put on more epoxy, or we can sand it all the way back to the wood, just leaving the epoxy in the pores. This is what I chose to do. I sanded it all the way back to the wood. Before applying more epoxy, it's best to just wipe off all the dust that we created during the sanding process. Using naphtha works really good for that. Now it's time to apply our second coat of epoxy. Now I covered all this in the first video, so I'm not going to go over this all again. So if you missed the first video, you might want to go back and see step by step what you have to do to apply the epoxy. After drying overnight, the pores actually look like they were filled, but I wouldn't know that for sure until after I sanded. I worked my way through all the grits again. I started with 100 to remove the epoxy as quickly as possible because I'm still going back to the wood. After I got back to the wood, then I went to the 150, 220, and all the way up to 320 before I finished. Well, I've given this a good look over, looking to see if the pores are filled. And I tell you what, just 2 coats really seems to have done the trick on this one. The only place that I still see open pores is a little bit around the rosette. So I guess I'll go ahead and fill the rosette again one more time, but the back and the sides are good. With all the sanding, the edges were starting to feel a little bit sharp again. So I went ahead and went back over them and rounded them off a little bit more. I was seeing signs that I might be getting a little too aggressive with my sanding. So on the last 2 grits, the 220 and the 320, I just did those by hand. Okay everybody, thank you for watching, and if you haven't entered to win this giveaway guitar yet, it's real easy. All you have to do is subscribe here, go to my website, spenceracoustics.com, fill out that little 2-line form that pops up so I'll know your name and your email address so I can contact you when you win. Alright, Friday, exciting day Friday, putting lacquer on this thing on Friday. I'll see you then.